Thanks. So I'm Rob, one of the co-directors actually of Ashoka in the UK. To give you some context about Ashoka, in the UK we have about 14 people in our team. Globally, we have country offices in about 35 countries around the world, and probably about 250 to 300 staff working in Ashoka globally. We've been going for about 35 years, founded by Bill Drayton, as Tim just said. We're best known for supporting some of the world's leading social entrepreneurs. So that's what we started doing 35 years ago, and that's really where we created a name for ourselves. We coined the term social entrepreneur. Bill Drayton was an ex-McKinsey consultant wanting to support these kind of leading change makers, these innovators who were driving social change, started in India, and really wanted to provide a package of support to these individuals. And so, are you able to hear me okay? It seems to be cutting out a little bit. Is it okay? So, good. And so, wanted to provide a package of support, and so Ashoka started providing financial support and strategic support to these individuals. The financial support typically is sort of several tens of thousands of dollars, depending on where you are in the world. And then the strategic support lasts a lifetime. It's a lifetime fellowship. And now, 35 years on, we have a network of over 3,000 social entrepreneurs all around the world, working in over 70 countries, and we're entirely sector agnostic. So we have fellows working in healthcare, criminal justice, the environment, nutrition, or education. And something that we're incredibly proud of is that whilst we coined the term social entrepreneur and were the first organisation to be supporting social entrepreneurship for probably about 10 years on our own, many other organisations have now sprung up to recognise and support social entrepreneurs, and dare I say, in some cases, do a much better job than we can at supporting social entrepreneurs. So globally, there's organisations like Skoll Foundation, Schwab Foundation, Echoing Green. In the UK, we have Unlimited, doing a fantastic job to support social entrepreneurs. And all of these we see as fantastic friends and sector partners. However, what we do recognise is we started this movement of social entrepreneurship. What we're now embarking on, and what gets us to the really exciting stage of Northampton being our first Changemaker campus in the UK, indeed in Europe, is we're embarking on a new movement, really trying to create a broader movement of change making. Social entrepreneurship, we really believe is necessary to drive transformational change in the world. But we don't want to see a world where everyone is a social entrepreneur. Indeed, the world would be a pretty crazy place if everybody was a social entrepreneur trying to constantly innovate and build new organisations. What we really want to see is a world where everyone is a change maker. Everybody has the skills and confidence to drive social change. And we believe in some foundational skills that are really necessary to achieve this. And so we believe in creativity, problem solving, leadership, teamwork, and I guess foundational to all of them is empathy. And in order to do this, we recognise that we have to work with, we want to work with the education system. And so something that Marina will talk more about in a minute is we launched the Ashoka U program to start working with some of the world's leading universities that already get this. They're already on board. They've probably been talking about this for years, like Tim has, and they don't so much need us to tell them what to do. But what we'd love is to work with them and embrace their ideas and share these ideas with a like-minded network of other universities around the world that recognise that we need young people to graduate with very new skills for the 21st century. And this isn't just happening at university level. This is also happening at primary school level and at secondary school level, just to sort of put into the context of where Northampton University fits into the sort of bigger picture for Ashoka. And so what we're doing at the moment is recruiting a sort of a cohort of 600 primary schools all around the world that are equally embedded in this concept of change making. They're graduating their students and they're measuring the students' performance and the teachers' performance on more than just the academic results, but they're starting to measure empathy and leadership and problem solving and teamwork. And we're doing the same at a secondary school level. So we're looking for a globe of 600 Changemaker secondary schools as well. And we think that if we combine the sort of knowledge and expertise of these primary schools, these secondary schools, and indeed these universities, we could really create a movement in the education space where we just start to help contribute towards this reimagining of learning for the 21st century. Ultimately, to sort of sum up the Ashoka kind of strategy, we fit it into kind of 3 pillars. The first pillar still being around social entrepreneurship. So what Ashoka wants to carry is supporting more of the world's leading social entrepreneurs than ever before. Indeed, we want to help support at least 80% of the world's leading social entrepreneurs. So each year, we're bringing in at least sort of 3 to 500 more social entrepreneurs into the Ashoka network. We're going to be working with primary schools, secondary schools, and universities in this education space to try and reimagine learning for the 21st century to create a generation of change makers. And then the final pillar is about reimagining organisations as well. So if we're to create a generation of change makers, is the world actually ready for these change makers? So many organisations are set up in silos, and so what we want to start doing is working with the business sector and understanding how we can break down walls between the citizen sector, the business sector, government, and how we can share learning between all of these. And we think it needs a whole new type of organisation. And that's something that we're embarking on with various different corporate partners.
Can you tell us a bit more about how that's working in the UK then? So some of the fellows that we've got in the UK, some of the projects that you've been working on with fellows here.
Yep. So in the UK we have so we started work again just to put it back into the context. So like I said, we're best known for supporting social entrepreneurs. We started in India 35 years ago. We then grew to more countries in Asia, Latin America, Africa. Fairly late on in our journey, around 10 years ago, we recognised that it wasn't just the developing world that had serious social and environmental problems that needed to be tackled. Of course, there are serious challenges in the developed world as well. We're not proud of the fact that we woke up to this a little bit late in the day, but we did. And so we launched an office in the UK about 6 or 7 years ago, and since then we've supported over 20 social entrepreneurs. To give a couple of examples of UK social entrepreneurs that we're supporting, one of really sort of interesting project that we're backing at the moment is a lady called Charlie Alcock, who's founded an organisation called MAC UK, where she recognised that some of the, well, she basically is a psychologist. She's in her early 30s. She graduated as a psychologist and quickly became very disillusioned as a clinical psychologist, that she wasn't able to support the people she really wanted to help. She wanted to help young people who were in trouble with the law, in trouble with crime, probably in gangs, and there was no way that those people were going to ever go and find an NHS clinic and gain sort of psychology support if that's what they needed. And so she quit her job, she moved to New York, she spent a year learning about gang culture in New York, she came back to London, she spent a year living outside a fish and chip shop to try and learn about gang culture in the UK. She had stones thrown at her, she was spat at, she had a horrendous time, but she developed her solution. And her solution was street therapy. She wanted to bring therapy onto the streets to see how she could help gang members. And so she started a project to go to a group of gang members in Camden, in London, to say, here's a pot of cash, we've got £5,000, let's start a project. We could start a music project, we could start a sport project, we could start anything, but let's just start a project. She would then have a team of 2 or 3 project managers around this project who would support the gang members to start up this initiative. But these project managers are also trained clinical psychologists. And what the statistics show is that a third of gang members have an unmet clinical psychological disorder, and they do need help. And so when they would see how these teams would start interacting, she would see how she could, if one of them would just, blow off and suddenly they're talking about the name of a track for a music CD, but they just completely lose their temper and go crazy. At the right time, one of the project managers would approach the team and say, how does this happen often? Is this an issue for you? This must be incredibly frustrating. And of course, at the right time, this person would say, yes, it is a challenge. And so she would say, how about we spend an hour down McDonald's talking about this challenge and providing basically appropriate therapy in the appropriate environment for this young person. And over the course of 6 months or a year, she would actually be able to help that individual overcome this problem. So Charlie, that's how the project started, and Charlie is now replicating this project around London, and she's setting up an international centre for street therapy in the UK to help psychologists all around the world understand how they can reach this audience that are currently not being met. And so Ashoka is trying to find more people like Charlie. So we've supported her for the last year or so, helping her set up this international centre, helping her take her model to a national or an international level. We want to find more people like Charlie who are tackling systemic problems to social challenges. So we're not interested in some of these kind of scratch-the-surface, gimmicky solutions. We're interested in individuals that are really tackling problems at their root cause. And so Charlie's just sort of one example of 20 in the UK that we're working with, and 3,000 that we're working with all around the world.